guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about Beltane, what it's all about, and how you can celebrate it. If you like the video, don't forget to hit the subscribe button for more videos on spirituality and witchcraft every week. And with that being said, let's get into the video. So Beltane is one of the 8 solar sabbats in the Wheel of the Year. It's directly opposite Samhain, so the two holidays are complementary, and Beltane celebrates life while Samhain celebrates the dead. And these two holidays are considered to be two of the most important holidays of the year. So what is Beltane all about? So Beltane is a holiday that has Celtic origins, and the Celtics believed that the year was separated into two parts. The first part being the dark half and the second part being the light half. And so Beltane marks the start of the half of the year, which is the light half. And the themes of Beltane are all about sensuality, passion, creation, fertility, and abundance. Beltane is the midway point between the spring equinox, Ostara, and the summer solstice, Litha. And so Beltane is all about celebrating the life that is to come in the months ahead. It is believed that Beltane is a part of the year where the god and the goddess unite, and the goddess grows pregnant with the reincarnation of the god, ensuring that he will be reborn after his death later on in the year. Because of this, Beltane is all about celebrating feminine and masculine energies coming together to allow for co-creation. Abundant fertility reaches its peak on the evening of May Eve, which is April 30th, and that's usually when Beltane is celebrated. Now, Beltane can be celebrated either April 30th or May 1st, depending on your preference, or both. I personally celebrate both May Eve and Beltane. And Beltane is a perfect part of the year to start focusing on bringing in new ideas or focusing on new goals, because it's the part of the year that focuses on creation. And so that creation, when it comes to the god and the goddess, yes, is physical in a child, but it can also be metaphorical in terms of the creation of a new business, a new idea, a new project, etc. Now, there are traditions that surround Beltane that have been around for hundreds of years. Beltane is a fire festival. The word Beltane comes from the Celtic word for bright fire, and its origins come from Celtic Ireland and Scotland. And so one of the main traditions is the Celtics would light a huge bonfire, and they would celebrate around the fire, dance around the fire, and then one part of the ceremony would be to jump over the fire. And so people would jump over the fire in order to bring more abundance into their lives. Couples would jump together to signify their devotion to each other. As well, farmers and people who had farm animals like cattle would drive the herds of animals through the smoke of the fire in order to bring more abundance into their lives, in order to make the animals more fertile. And so after the celebrations were kind of done, all of the heads of the villages would bring the fire back to their villages, and all fireplaces would be lit from the same fire, meaning the Beltane fire. And so that's one tradition. Now, another usual tradition for Beltane is hand fasting. Because it's the time of the year where the god and the goddess unite, or they're unified in a divine marriage, many pagans decide that this is the perfect sabbat to perform a hand fasting. And so a hand fasting traditionally is an engagement for around a year and a day, where after a year and a day the couple can decide to stay together or decide to part, and both parties can part the relationship without any consequences. And so these hand fastings, of course, are unique to each couple, but they share some commonalities between them. Usually there'll be an exchange of vows and rings, as you would expect in a normal wedding, but also there would be the tying of hands together, and then later afterwards the untying of the hands. Another part of the ceremony could be to usually jump over a broom that's been laid on the floor, and this is to signify the crossing of the threshold from the old life apart to the new life together. Now, another tradition around Beltane that you may be familiar with or maybe you've seen is maypole dancing, or having the maypole and then dancing around the maypole. Now, the maypole is just a wooden pole with usually a ring of flowers at the top and ribbons that hang downwards. And so the pole is a symbol of the god, the ring of flowers is a symbol of the goddess, and the ribbons around it, as well as the dance that follows, is all about the unification of the god and the goddess, so them coming together to ensure the god's reincarnation for the coming year. Now, another common tradition around Beltane is that people would go out into the woods in partners and they would enact the unification of the god and the goddess, basically spending the entire night out in the woods, making love with a partner. And this is also the part of the time of the year where married couples would also be able to metaphorically take off their wedding rings and spend the night with someone else. It was the only night of the year where that was allowed. And so couples would go out into the woods, spend the night in the woods, and then at the end of the night they would collect flowers and greenery to bring back to their homes, to decorate their homes for the coming month. It was an expected tradition of Beltane to expect Beltane babies 9 months after Beltane. So how can you celebrate Beltane? So a perfect way to lead up into Beltane is to the weeks right before Beltane, so the last few weeks of April. You're going to want to be focusing on, like we mentioned earlier, your goals, brand new ideas, bringing in new projects, as well as if you are in a relationship with somebody else, focusing on that relationship, maybe doing something nice for your partner, taking them out to dinner, etc., being a little bit more romantic around this time of year. So Beltane is usually celebrated either with a combination of traditional practices and the worshiping of chosen gods or goddesses during this time. So deities that are commonly worshipped around this time are gods and goddesses that are associated with the forest, with abundance, fertility, motherhood, passion, and agriculture. So during this time it can be common to maybe say a prayer to Cernunnos, or to say a prayer to Mother Earth, or to worship any god or goddess that you feel the need to this time of year that has a common association with the holiday. So Beltane is usually celebrated in groups by lighting huge bonfires and dancing and performing rituals, but if you don't have a group to celebrate with, or rather you are in quarantine and cannot celebrate with a huge group, there are some other ways that you can celebrate this year and coming years with just yourself or with a partner. So the first thing that you want to do is dress your best. We're celebrating a wedding. It's the wedding of the god and the goddess, so you want to dress in nice clothes. White, red, and green are the colors of Beltane. So, but if you don't have those colors, you could just dress very nicely. Another thing that you can do is set up a Beltane altar, and so you can set up an altar with greenery, flowers, anything from nature, as well as include a candle as a representation of the Beltane fire. And you can even include a statue of a god or goddess that you are currently worshiping at this time, or that you associate with Beltane. And you can even create a mini maypole to include on your altar using any wooden pole that you have with ribbons, whether that's ribbons or yarn. Now, if you don't have access to a normal sized maypole, which many of us don't in our houses, It's perfectly okay to, like I said, create a mini one, or you could, if you have a yard and it's safe to go out and you have trees in your yard, you could decorate your trees with ribbons, dance around your trees, and have your celebration there. Of course, again, if it's safe in your area.
Why? Because it's safe?
Because we're in quarantine, Mommy.
Oh.
Yeah. This is especially effective if the tree you pick is either hawthorn or birch or rowan, as these trees are heavily associated with Beltane. Now, if using fire is not available to you, maybe you don't have candles or maybe it's not safe for you, then you could always include imagery of a fire, whether that's a drawing, a picture, or just symbolism, or just using, you know, very strong visualization to go along with a photo or a drawing. So another idea is to stay up all night from April 30th into May 1st and watch the sunrise. As well, you can, as they did before, enact the unification of the god and the goddess with a partner or by yourself. So some other ideas could be to make garlands, meditate, perform abundance rites. You could also create a flower garden and leave offerings for fairies. This time of year is, as I've heard, good for making first contact with the fairies. So another thing to do is, while you're doing your spells and your rituals, make sure to include some dancing, especially to music, especially if it's drum beat music. So I personally this year will be celebrating the god Cernunnos, who is the Celtic god of the forest as well as the underworld. I'll also be doing a lot of meditations and abundance spells, as well as including dancing into all of those rituals. So another thing that I will be doing is staying up from May Eve to the morning of Beltane, which is May 1st, and I will be watching the sunrise as well as cleansing the house. I'll be smudging with sage, and so that's a little bit of an insight into how I personally celebrate Beltane. But with all of that being said, I hope you guys learned a little bit more about the traditions around Beltane and how you personally can celebrate Beltane this year and coming years. I have all of my sources, as well as some extra reading and some articles that talk about rituals and spells and prayers that you could do during this year, as well as some other activities, all down below in the description box. So don't forget to hit the thumbs up button and hit the subscribe button for more videos on spirituality and witchcraft in the coming weeks. And also leave a comment down below, what are you going to be doing this Beltane, and what have you done before in Beltanes of years past, and what would you like to do this year? And with all of that being said, I will see you guys next time. Next week we will be going over the Suit of Wands in the Tarot deck, so I will see you guys there. Bye!
Boop boop.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
Co-creation.
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 Co-creation. Creation entre dos personas.
Oh.
O sea, co-creación.
Go.
I don't think that's a Spanish word, pero. Now, another tradition that you may be familiar with around Beltane is, okay. Yeah, I heard it, but I was gonna keep going. It's fine.
Okay, next.
So, dress in nice clothes. Green and red and white are, you know, usually the
Italian
common
flag.
is the underworld, and so I will be celebrating. Okay, over again.
Sí.
God damn it.
Sí, aquí sí estás ahí.
I can't. My throat was dry.
No, sí está como.